This is Indian Country Today.
Esquili, yes, thank you for joining us. I'm Patty Thalohungva. Here are the headlines for Wednesday, October 14th. The U.S. Supreme Court rules in favor of the Trump administration ending the census count early. The nation's highest court ruled to end the census count on October 15th. Tribal leaders and organizations have raised concerns that Native communities will be undercounted, which will affect them for the next decade. Before the ruling, the National Congress of American Indians issued a statement raising questions about confusion over the data being gathered. Licia Maddox, Vice President of External Affairs for NCAI, is urging Indian country not to give up on this right now.
We have until 6 a.m. on the 16th to make sure that we're still getting our self-response rates in and up. So, do all you can in your communities, your neighboring communities, and make sure that you're pushing out there with your friends and family on social media and letting everybody know that if they have not responded, this is it.
Besides deciding how many congressional seats each state gets, the census count helps determine how $1.5 trillion in federal funding is distributed each year. And in a blow to potential voters in Arizona, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is cutting the voter registration deadline short. The new deadline is tomorrow, October 15th. Arizona is a key swing state in this election. And last week, a judge ruled in favor of extending the voter registration deadline from October 5th to October 23rd, citing the pandemic. However, Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs and others challenged the deadline extension. Yesterday, the appeals court said the pandemic and public health restrictions did not warrant more time for voters to register. The court cited online and mail-in voter registration options, but many natives live in rural areas with slower mail service and struggle with accessing broadband. Anyone who did register between October 5th and October 15th will be able to vote. President Donald Trump's campaign is launching a coalition to reach out to his Native American supporters. Native Americans for Trump Coalition will kick off at an event tomorrow in northern Arizona. Donald Trump Jr. will host the event at the Williams Rodeo Grounds. A campaign spokeswoman said Trump has been a strong supporter of Native people. While both candidates are rallying support from Native Americans, the second presidential debate is canceled. After President Trump refused to participate in a virtual debate, the Commission on Presidential Debates canceled the event. Instead, both candidates will host competing town halls tomorrow evening. Former Vice President Joe Biden will hold a town hall in Philadelphia, and President Trump will hold his event in Miami. And in our coverage of Native Vote 20, Indian Country Today is following the races of 14 Native American candidates running for Congress from both parties. A few are incumbents running for a re-election, but most are hoping to sit in Congress for the first time, like Democrat Lynette Graybull from the Wind River Indian community in Wyoming. Graybull is running for the state's only U.S. House seat there. Wyoming is represented in the U.S. House by one at-large congressional district. Graybull is running against incumbent Liz Cheney, who also serves as the House Republican Conference Chair. North Dakota just saw its youngest citizen die from COVID-19. 17-year-old Elvia Rose Ramirez was a citizen of the Mandan Hidatsa Iroquois Nation. She passed away on October 6th. Her mother, Susan Three Irons, said as one of 9 children, Ramirez loved to help everyone. Like many North Dakotans who have died from COVID-19, Ramirez had underlying health conditions. She suffered from asthma and high blood pressure. MHA Nation Chairman Mark Fox said her death has sent shockwaves throughout the community. Many people are stunned, expressing sympathy and sorrow for her family on social media. Schoolmates and her friends in her community put together a small memorial and honored her with a moment of silence before a recent volleyball game. The Havasupai tribe is still under a strict lockdown for tourists and other visitors, but it's lifting the stay-at-home order for its residents. Yesterday, the Havasupai Tribal Council announced the stay-at-home order would be lifted for residents living on the reservation, which is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. The lockdown order will remain in effect indefinitely, and that means all tourism is halted. Hikes to Havasu Falls will be rescheduled for next year. So far, the Tribal Council says there have been no reports of positive COVID-19 cases. If there are any, the tribe will reinstate the stay-at-home order. And on this date, October 14th, 1964, Billy Mills won the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics. He is Oglala Lakota and is the only American to win the gold medal for the 10,000-meter race. Today, his nonprofit, Running Strong for American Indian Youth, helps all Native Americans. Happy 56th anniversary, Billy. And those are the headlines from Indian Country Today for Wednesday, October 14th. I'm Patty Thalahungva. When we come back, we'll get an update from Vern Jefferson, who survived COVID-19 after being hospitalized and on a ventilator. On April 16th, we first met Vern Jefferson. He had just been released from the hospital after battling COVID-19. Vern is Meskwaki and lives on the tribal settlement in Tama, Iowa. He's also a police officer, and when he got sick, Vern was in the midst of training for an Ironman triathlon. We decided to check back with him to see how his recovery is going. Welcome back, Vern.
Yes, I'm part of the Thunder Clan for the Meskwaki Nation. My name in Meskwaki is Gishigwa Dambanda. It means sky owner or owner of the sky.
Owner of the sky. Wow, that's a very powerful name there, Vern. So how are you doing overall? How have you been feeling since we interviewed you back in April?
Overall, I'm not too bad. I'm still making improvements. I still attend physical therapy. What they're doing right now is trying to work on my endurance and building up my endurance with my breathing. I was told my capillaries or my sacs in my lungs they're kind of blocked still. So I've been doing a lot of running. When I do sprints, I end up wheezing towards the end. I think that I have to really push myself to get things done and get things accomplished. So biking, running, swimming is really hard for me right now with my breathing. So it's just taken a little bit to catch up. And initially the doctor said it would take about 3 months to a year to catch up to where I was before. And it's been about maybe like 6 months now.
And when we last interviewed you, you had just come home from the hospital.
It was very hard to breathe. I had to take short breaths, and then the coughing would start, and I would fight so hard not to cough because the pain was so horrible. I had to take these short coughs and breathing, and I mean, there are times that I wasn't sure I was going to make it out.
And you were sent home with an oxygen tank because you have a second floor at your house, and you had trouble even climbing up those stairs.
Yes, I got pretty winded just walking up the stairs. I've made a lot of progress. I know one time we were trying to put a trampoline together, and I was just moving these lightweight little bars, and I just couldn't do it. I maybe helped for 20 minutes, half an hour, and I was done for the day. So that was like 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. I sat around with my oxygen. But now I can, I'm planning a run this afternoon. It'll probably be 4 or 5 miles, and definitely not to where I used to be, but I'm still trying to build up my endurance and push myself to be positive and just really work to where I used to be. And I think that helps out a lot with my recovery.
I was just going to ask you about that too. Mentally, how do you recover from COVID? I mean, of course, it impacts everybody in a different way. You had it really bad. How have you been able to sustain your mental health and wellness in all of this when you were so active training for a triathlon and then you were just flattened and couldn't do anything?
Right. So when I first got it, it really brought me down. And there was a point there where I thought, wow, I need to really check on my will and make sure everything's all good there. And then I had this change in attitude of, I need to be positive, I need to work, I need to get up and move around and have this whole positive mentality. There are some people that reached out to me, and they let me know that they have COVID, and I prayers really helped out a lot. Sends a lot of positivity, a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy through asking for help from the Creator. So I tell a lot of people to remain positive and uh, don't let that, because there's a lot of depression that goes along. There's a lot of fear that goes along with it, and understandably, with the loss of relatives and a lot of people, that it would bring you down, thinking that and having that mentality that you have it. So when they do reach out to me, I encourage them, stay strong, stay positive, drink a lot of water, get up and move around. You have to push yourself and you have to work yourself to get through it. So myself to push myself harder than before is really, but oh my gosh, I going for a walk or something, and I biked and ran one day, and I was so happy. I never thought I was going to be in that shape again, and I was just really, I mean, it affects people on so many different levels that with myself it was very difficult, but I learned how to push myself, and I think I got a lot of that discipline from when I was in the Marines. So I'll hoorah, simplify to my fellow brothers out there. So that's what I learned. So when they do ask, I encourage a lot of positivity, a lot of positive thoughts, and to stand up and push yourself and accomplish things. It's not easy, but just remaining positive. I think the mental aspect is important.
Sure. And you said again, it affects people in different ways. Your wife also caught COVID-19 and was sick as well, but she had a different experience.
Yeah, she was she had it at the same time I had it when I was in a hospital in ICU. So she was at home with the boys, my 3 and 4 year old, and she was tired. She had a headache. So she was down for about 3 days, but she still did a lot of work at home and keeping in touch with me, keeping in touch with family and friends, and letting them know what was going on with me. And then one day she just said she woke up and she felt all energetic and through it. So she had some serology testing done, and we found out that she had it at the same time.
Wow, so a completely different experience in your own home there with your wife. And so how was the decision made for you to go back to work? And you are a police officer there at the Meskwaki Indian settlement. What was that process? How did you decide you were ready to go back to work?
Yeah, I'm a police officer about 20 miles from here in a city called Marshalltown. So not here for the Meskwaki Nation. I kept having follow-up appointments. I kept going to physical therapy. They asked me, when do you want to be back to work? And I said 2 weeks. I want to go back in 2 weeks. Like we're looking at like 6 to 8 weeks. But I worked on my endurance. I did a lot of cardio, a lot of core training, strength training. I get a pain right in my chest here, and on a daily basis, I probably get it towards late morning and late afternoon, and I take some medication for that to help with the pain. So it helps out a lot. And if I work really hard and do a lot of exercise, and then I might be sore for the next day. So what they wanted me to do is really work on my endurance in case I would have to chase someone or deal with someone while I'm at work. So that was their plan. And I'm still not to where I used to be, but I think I'd still be able to do what I need to do for the time being. So it was a really tough decision for me to go back, because I didn't want to put my fellow workers in danger, thinking or being worried about me with everything. So just being able to, being able to get up and lift and run and work out, I think has helped out a lot. And it's not comfortable at all. It's very uncomfortable, but to push myself through that, I think really helped out.
And what about the Meskwaki Indian settlement there overall? How has COVID hit your community there?
I did check for some stats this morning. There's 900 tests completed, 137 positives. Unfortunately, we had 2 deaths in a community, and we haven't had any recent cases or anything in the community here.
Oh, that's good news. And how large is the community?
I want to say like 1,800 is a rough estimate of community members, adults through children. So.
And then what about just the whole guidelines from the CDC? Are they still being enforced? Are you still seeing people wearing face coverings, social distancing, or is your community open for business?
Right, we're still following those recommendations. Our travel plaza, it requires face coverings. I'm a member of the tribal council here also, so we still meet through Zoom. Our chairperson, she's elderly, so we want to keep her safe also. And again, we're just trying to think about the community being safe. Yeah, it affects so many people in different ways, and we don't know. Like, I don't know why I got it so bad, and my brother had it, and he didn't have hardly anything with him. So it just depends. Like currently now I have this pain right through here, so I try to stretch out and really stretch out, and sometimes that really helps out. I was told I have some kind of I don't know all the terminology to it, but some kind of fluid inside between the wall of my chest and my lungs that causes that pain. So they're trying to work it out and do a lot of stretching, a lot of exercises to kind of keep that going.
What do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned having gone through COVID-19, been hospitalized for it on a ventilator, and now surviving it?
The biggest lesson for me, I think, is, we have to be safe. We have to take care of each other. If people provide guidelines, the people should follow those. I was told we had an event going on here, not an event, but more like a ceremony going on here, and there was someone that tested positive over there, and I went to go get tested again, and they said, there's no record of anyone getting COVID-19 a second time, so you don't need to be tested. I have the antibodies to it, so I don't wear a mask anymore, but I do out of courtesy for others, so they're not fearful, and there's a lot of fear instilled into people. So, but for me, the biggest thing I think is mentally is that you can really be sick and you can really be down, but your attitude really helps you out a lot. If you're going to be down, it feels like that mentally people get down, and it doesn't help your healing process, because it's a whole combination of the energy that you have inside you to be up and positive and being up and staying positive. But if you get down, it seems like your immune system goes down also. So, but if you're up and positive, it seems like it builds up your immunity and you're up and ready to go. So I think that's my biggest thing. And for people that hopefully nobody else, but that they're going to get it, is to stay positive. And, it's not nice to go through, but having a positive attitude, working through prayer and, using traditional medicine to help you through it, asking for the Creator for help really helps out a lot.
Well, Vern Jefferson, we want to say thank you for joining us again and giving us an update on your recovery from COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we'll be right back.
This is Indian Country Today.
Welcome back. Mary Annette Pember is our national correspondent based in Cincinnati, and she's written several election stories recently, as well as looking at one aspect of Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's legal career. Welcome, Mary Annette.
Bonjour. Good to see you, Patty.
Good to see you too. And it's election 2020, and you recently spoke to some voters who support President Trump. What did they tell you?
I was able to find some people that are very active in social media in supporting President Trump's reelection. I found a man who is actually Salt River Pima tribe, and he runs a couple of social media sites called he calls himself the Native Conservative, and he feels pretty strongly on issues that many of the other Trump voters feel on. Common threads are sort of this mistrust and betrayal by Democratic Party and politicians, and a very high level of mistrust of the mainstream press, and the sense of estrangement, I think, from mainstream politics, and weariness with the stagnant nature of like social and economic growth in Native communities.
So those are some of the issues, and they say they're supporting President Trump. Did they indicate that they had voted for him last time as well?
No, and that was very interesting. Nobody did. Of course, I was really only able to speak directly with 3 people. People were a little bit nervous about being attributed, in other words, sharing their name with their opinions. All of the people that I did speak to actually voted for either Bernie Sanders last time, and they all voted for Obama. So they've all done this, 180 degree turnaround for their political support. So that was very interesting.
That is interesting. We have covered, of course, President Trump's rally in New Mexico and met with a lot of voters, primarily Navajo in that area there, who were supporting President Trump. So again, looking at the voters and what they're judging their votes on, and you cite that concern about a lack of response from the Democratic Party. So it'll be interesting to see how the Native vote turns out in this presidential election. Also happening this week is today is the third day for the Senate confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. And while her legal background and her career is being dissected by the senators there, you focused on one issue in particular in her legal background. What was that?
Yes, I took a look at the Indian Child Welfare Act, which, as you may know, is currently under review by the Fifth Circuit District Court about its constitutionality, which is very, very serious. And if it is found, it's currently being considered under a process called en banc, which is an unusual legal process in which they examine a decision that was previously made by that court, but all of the judges participate. Now, previously, that the Fifth District found that ICWA was indeed constitutional, but they've elected to review it en banc. So it's going, January will be a year since they began the hearing. So we're going quite a long time, and it's difficult to predict which way it will go. Certainly, it's very likely it would go to the Supreme Court, and that if Amy Coney Barrett is in fact confirmed, she would be, potentially finding on this very important act for Indian country. So she has a history. She has adopted 2 children from Haiti. And we thought it was at least worthwhile when we look at the way that Supreme Court nominees, both their personal lives and their legal experience, are scrutinized. I looked at this, actually a 65-page long questionnaire that they have them fill out. And actually, they do want to know if anything in their lives, either professional or personally, might potentially interfere with their judgment. So we did feel it was a valid area to explore.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And finally, there are tribal elections going on. You spoke with the Oglala Sioux tribe, I believe.
Yes, and they, during this very difficult time, where COVID rates have really risen in South Dakota and on the Pine Ridge Reservation, Yes, they just had their election yesterday, and they are still compiling results. But they did release Keeley Radio did release an unofficial primary election results, and these people then will have a runoff on November 3rd, the same day as the presidential election. So it looks like the two people for who took the greatest votes for president. The main vote getter was Kevin Killer at 660 votes, second with John Yellowbird Steele at 413. So there are some quote unquote contested votes being counted. Somebody told me unofficially, and those are votes that, perhaps the people may not have had absolutely correct identification or something of that nature. And those will be probably sorted out by tomorrow or Friday.
All right. Well, Marinette Pember, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Your life is precious. I'm Patty Thawahungva. Join us again tomorrow.
Indian Country Today is recorded at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is Indian Country Today.